try and track down a reference to the hotel tragedy, Brendan has come to the National Library of Ireland.
I'm starting on October 18th. It's the date that the newspaper carried the details of my granddad's killing. So I'm going to work back from that. So let's have a look. Oh, 1 second. Dublin street tragedy. Further scenes of terrorism. Divine services interrupted. A priest fired at. Nope. 15th. 3 days earlier. Still nothing. Another tragedy in County Clare. No. Okay, on to the 12th. Still nothing. I don't know if it's going to be a front-page headline, but I presume it would be. 2 more shooting tragedies, Tipperary youth killed. These were dangerous times. We're going back to September. 27th, I'm back as far as I still have seen nothing. It's coming on to 3 weeks before the death. I starting to wonder, is it here at all? Oh. Have it. I have it. Appalling tragedy in Dublin Hotel. A county councillor killed in dead of night. I'm gonna have to enlarge this now and just see what I can. It's very faint. Just let me. A shocking tragedy was enacted shortly after 3 a.m. yesterday in the Exchange Hotel, Dublin. Mr. J.A. Lynch, county councillor, was shot dead in his bedroom by military men who, it is officially declared, went to arrest him. No sound was heard, not even by the occupants of the adjoining rooms. That sounds familiar. Mr. Lynch was shot through the head, dying instantaneously. There's a statement here from the occupants on either side of the room in which Mr. Lynch was killed, and of the rooms on the opposite side of the corridor state that they heard no shots, no noises. It looks like exactly the same style of killing. The silent gun, the hour of the morning, that it was a single bullet to the back of the head. It's an execution style, literally shot where they were. Exactly the same as my granddad. Whoever these people are, they're a law unto themselves. They don't worry about breaking any rules because they make the rules. You get the feeling reading the article that was written about my granddad, that the journalist who wrote it, by drawing attention to the similarities, was trying to say it was the same people that killed Lynch in the Exchange Hotel, but couldn't say that. Censorship was the order of the day. So maybe if I can find out who killed Lynch, it will bring me closer to finding out who killed my grandfather. I can't do it on my own. Oh, I need help. So I'm going to meet Ian Kennelly. He's an expert on the well, he'd know more about the censorship of that time and what the press was actually doing at that time than I would, and hopefully he might be able to help me somewhere on the. I think that's him there now. Ian.
Brendan, how are you?
How you doing? Thanks very much for meeting. I appreciate it.
Delighted.
Where do you want to have it? Do you want to have a cup of coffee?
Well, first of all, I thought I'd bring you just to this spot so you might look up there and see something you might have already encountered in your journey.
The Royal Exchange Hotel. Good grief. This is where the Lynch murder took place.
Right inside there. It's not a hotel anymore, but that's where he met his demise.
My God. So let's talk.
Well, I think we should get out of the busy street into this cafe
and
have a talk.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks very much. Now, you know about censorship at that time, and you've read the article about my granddad. And the journalist, where he says here the similarity between the killing of Lynch and the Exchange Hotel across the road, is he trying to say something more here? But is watching what he's saying? Is he trying to say that there's a connection?
Yeah, he uses in that the phrase striking resemblance, and it's widely known that the auxiliaries, or the Crown forces, let's say, were involved in that killing of Lynch. So by saying that, he's saying, without explicitly saying, that I reckon it's the same situation with
Now,
Peter
is he
O'Carroll.
saying he reckons? Is he guessing, or does he know more?
Well, he probably knows more. Now, this is September, October 1920. In August 1920, there was a counterinsurgency legislation called the Restoration of Order in Ireland Act. That meant newspapers couldn't print any report, even if it was true, that was deemed to cause disaffection, was the word they used, to His Majesty or His Majesty's forces.
We will tell you what you can put in the paper.
Yeah. There was, say, intimidation against newspapers. Newspapers were closed down. They were firebombed by auxiliaries on a number of occasions. Now, there were IRA attacks, but actually the Crown Forces were involved in most of the violence against newspapers. And journalists are afraid to say what they really know, so they often used euphemisms and hints. I think the journalist is clearly making a link between Peter O'Carroll's death and Lynch's death. And if it's the same type of killing, it may well be the same person or the same group of people who are involved.
So, if he's saying that it could be the same people, did they ever discover who it was that killed Lynch?
There are sources that name individuals within the British intelligence network who are involved in assassinations. And I actually have one document here from a Republican that names, I'm not saying it's the individual who was involved in Peter O'Carroll's death, but names individuals who were involved in shooting Lynch. And it may lead you on to something else.
So he's talking about Lynch's killers?
Yeah, what he knows, what he had heard about Lynch's killing.
I was horrified to read in the press that Mr. Lynch had been murdered that night in his bed. It appears that about 2 a.m., a party of English officers and RAC men knocked at the hotel door. They demanded the number of Lynch's room, and having got it, went upstairs. After a short while, they came downstairs and departed. They had shot Lynch as he lay in his bed. Collins, with his wonderfully organised intelligence system, that's Michael Collins,
Yeah, and Director of Intelligence for the IRA.
right in the enemy's heart, soon discovered who poor Lynch's murderers were. One of them was an Englishman who lodged in a house in Mount Street under the name of McMahon. His real name was Angus, and he had lately come across from England with several others to do intelligence and murder work.
That statement is accurate. He had come over as part of a small group to do this intelligence work.
These men, they came over for intelligence and murder.
Oh yes, the intelligence was the first part, and then they'd act on that intelligence by assassinating people.
So let me do amateur detective here for a second. He's sure that McMahon struck Angus was in the Royal Exchange Hotel at Lynch's murder. If the same style of weapon was used, if the same modus operandi was used, if the same way of using the weapon was used, I don't think it's unreasonable of me to think that the same people were there when my granddad was shot.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all. We know that there's a small group of intelligence operatives working in the city at this stage, and that they're travelling about trying to build up intelligence on people and then acting upon that intelligence by assassinating them.
So I need to find out more about McMahon and Strug Angus and his cohorts. You know, I'd resign myself to if I could just find out the group that were responsible. But it's starting to narrow down to maybe individuals. I think I might get this down to 2 or 3 people who could be responsible for the murder of my grandfather. And that's a lot more than I hoped for when I started this. It's a long time ago, and I don't want to be accusing anybody, but I'm too far down the road now to not follow this through as far as I can.